Hello guys, it is April from Getting Hookah With It. Today I am here to share with you the brand new releases that are coming out in 2019. I just did a video about the new releases coming out from January 2019 to March. This video is about April to July. And these are just the books that I know of so far. There will be more, I'm sure, especially as we move into summer. So we'll probably do more videos as we go on. But I have some very exciting, wonderful releases that I cannot wait for. So let's get into it. So the first book, I'm happy to say I actually have an arc for. The rest of them I don't have arcs for, but I do have an arc for The Last by Hannah Jameson. This is coming out in April 2019, and this is like a post-apocalyptic story about historian John Keller. He is on a trip in Switzerland, and suddenly the world kind of comes to an end. There are bombs that go down in Washington, London, Munich, Scotland. It seems like everything is destructed, everyone is dead. There are a few survivors, he is one of them, and so he's staying with 20 survivors in a hotel. Sadly, you know, the world kind of coming to an end is not enough to be devastating for this man. But there also seems to be a killer in the hotel. It sounds like so much fun. It sounds like a mix between And Then There Were None and then I don't even know what, some sort of apocalyptic version of that. I was thrilled to see that Emily St. John Mandel, who wrote Station 11, loved this book. I think that is a really good sign. So yes, The Last by Hannah Jameson, that's coming out in April. There's also a brand new book by Josh Malerman coming out in April called Inspection. Now, I sadly really struggled with Josh Malerman's last book, Unbury Carol. I really didn't like it. That was not horror. That was like a Western. And it was marketed as horror, and I had a whole bunch of problems around that book. I didn't like it. I wanted to, but no. This, it sounds like we're back into horror thriller territory. Thank the gods, because Josh Malerman does that so well. I mean, Bird Box will always be my favorite horror novel. This is, again, a bit of a dystopian story where boys live together and go to school together in one area, and girls live and go to school together in another, and I don't think that they know about one another at all. But all of these students are being trained to become geniuses. They're being trained to be prodigies of art, science, athletics, and they're very much kept away from society. They have one job and one job only, and they're not really encouraged to know anything beyond that. However, our character Jay meets a girl in the woods, I believe, named Kay, and they meet each other, and they start to really question their schooling and question what is actually going on here. Are they like prisoners? What's happening? I will always read Josh Malerman. I do love him, and I'm really hoping that this is going to be a little more Bird Box-esque. Fingers crossed. Another book coming out in April is by Jennifer McMahon called The Invited. And this is a horror kind of ghost story. We're following a couple who move to the woods and they start to build a house. And they don't realize that they're going to be moving into a haunted house. They're actually building a haunted house, which I never thought that was possible. So it turns out that the property that they're building on has a very violent past. Helen wants to learn about the history of this property, and she finds out that this woman named Hattie Breckenridge lived there. She lived there and died there about a century ago. And then Helen starts to source material for their new house. She finds beams, bricks, and mantles, and all of these things she wants to implement into her own house. But I think they're Hatties, and I think somehow those things are going to create a haunted house for this couple. And I need to know what happens to this couple. It sounds absolutely fantastic. I love Jennifer McMahon. She wrote The Winter People, which was very unsettling. It's horror, but it's like a light horror, I would say. It's not completely petrifying, definitely not gruesome and gory, and that's kind of what I love about Jennifer McMahon, is she can create these unsettling environments. You don't know why, you're so creeped out, but you're not disgusted. Like, you can eat a sandwich and read her books. And Campbell is coming out with a collection of poems in April called The Girl Aquarium. I love the cover of her book for this. It looks absolutely wonderful. And this is a collection of poems that explore the realm of rotten fairy tales, the possession of body, and the definition of beauty. I love Jen, and I will always want to read her work. So that is coming out in April as well. We're moving into May. So this next book, like, I have to read it. Of all of the books I think coming out in 2019 spring, I must read The Confessions of Franny Langton by Sara Collins. This is compared to Alias Grace and The Underground Railroad. We're following Franny Langton. She is a servant and a former slave. She's accused of murdering her employer and his wife. Now, Franny doesn't seem to be able to really defend herself. She's in a courtroom with people who are just completely against her. She's already guilty, essentially. And she doesn't remember exactly what happened. She just can't seem to relay that information. But what she does is explain where she came from, and what her history has been like. So we learn about her childhood on a Jamaican plantation. She also had an apprenticeship at a debauched scientist, and then that all led her to work for this couple in their home. And I think it's through her testimony that everything comes to light, and it just sounds brilliant. It really does give me so much Alias Grace vibes, and I'm ready for another story like that, where you're just not sure, but you want only the best for these characters. Oh, I cannot wait for that book. I'm also eager to read The 7 or 8 Deaths of Stella Fortuna by Juliet. This is coming out in May, and it gives me I am, and Life After Life vibes. It does. It's fiction, and we're following Stella Fortuna, and she, in her entire life, including her childhood, she's always had these like brushes with death. You know, it's even normal things in life like cooking an eggplant. Suddenly she's like on the brink of death and nearly dying. And her mom actually thinks that she might be haunted, or there's something cursed about Stella. When her family moves to the Americas from Italy, we're on the cusp of World War II. And Stella learns that her survival is apparently worthless without one thing her family will deny her at any cost: her independence. And so it sounds like this whole story is told by a relative of Stella in present-day Connecticut. And I do like it when an author goes back and forth in time. There's just something lovely about that a lot of the time. At least Kate Morton does that incredibly well. So I enjoy that, and I think this sounds like a lot of fun. Now, Elizabeth Gilbert fans, Amy Poole, I'm looking at you. You've got a new book coming out in June from Elizabeth Gilbert called City of Girls. This is fiction. This, I think, will be her second or third fiction book. We're following New York City in the 40s. We're following like a theater group in New York City in the 40s. It's just great setting. And again, we're being told the story of Vivian Morris's life as she's looking back on her life as an older woman. And in 1940, we meet her when she's 19 years old. She's kind of sent to live with her aunt, Peg, who owns a flamboyant, crumbling midtown theater called the Lily Playhouse. And there she meets a very interesting group of characters. And I think she finds a lot of hope and solace in this setting. However, she does make an enormous mistake, and this mistake will cost her in a major way. It results in a professional scandal, and it's taken all of this time to the point that like she's 95 years old now and she's just understanding what happened. In June, we've got Searching for a Sylvie Lee by Jean Kwok. So this is a mysterious book. It begins with Sylvie, who is the oldest daughter of the Lee family. She goes to the Netherlands because her grandmother is dying, and then she just vanishes from there. And we're following Amy, who's the baby of the Lee family. She doesn't remember a time when Sylvie wasn't with them, I don't think. When they first arrived in America, they were very poor. They were really, really struggling. And it sounds like they were too poor to keep Sylvie. So 7 years later, Sylvie was raised by a distant relative in a faraway foreign place and didn't come back to join the family until the age of 9. So Amy is trying to discover what actually happened to Sylvie. And it sounds like this is like just jam-packed with family secrets. It's kind of giving me Celeste Ng vibes, and that is why I want to read this book. I'm hoping it's got some Celeste Ng vibes to it, so we will see. The next one, and I think the last one I have to share with you guys, is a short story collection by my favorite horror novelist of all time, Paul Tremblay. It's coming out in July, The Growing Things. With the world choking underneath preternaturally growing plants, two daughters await their father's return to their mountain hideout, but uncover a family secret instead. I think that is the main story of all of them, but this is jam-packed. It's 15 stories, and we have stories of fear and paranoia, apocalypses, both societal and personal, and stories of longing and coping. And I will read anything that Paul Tremblay writes. I love him. So those are the other books that I'm super excited about. If you didn't watch my previous video about the books coming out from January to March 2019, go ahead and check that out because that is jam-packed with some good ones as well. I'll keep these videos coming if you like them. I'll keep these videos coming and let you know what's coming up next in the months to come. Don't you just love books? God, let me know in the comments below which book of the ones that I mentioned here you're most excited about, and if there are any other books that you know of coming out at this time in spring. I'd love to know what you're excited to read this 2019. I can't wait. I hope you're doing well, and I will talk with you soon. Okay, bye guys.